Okay, so tonight's topic is the mind's eye, third eye, the pineal gland, however you want to say it. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. Like I said, I'm a boy from Georgia, so I normally like to make cut as many syllables out as possible, but I'll try to say pineal gland to make the majority of people happy. But yeah, that's what we're talking about tonight. It's in so many. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Oh, I'm stuck already. How's that? I clicked out of everything. There we go. Okay. So the mind's eye, um, and it's been around for as long as humanity's been around, these esoteric groups that talk about it. Rene Descartes is obviously one person who has talked about it, in great detail. Rene, he called the pineal gland the seat of the soul, and I tend to agree with him. There's some pretty amazing things about the pineal gland that that I'll share here in a little bit that really emphasize why I believe he's correct on that. But yeah, down here at the bottom it says he said the principal seat of the soul. Oh, come on, don't get stuck. How are we getting stuck already? All right, guys, that doesn't happen too often. There we go. So it is a tiny little organ in your brain, and it looks like a tiny little pine cone, which is why it is called the pineal gland or pineal gland. In reptiles, many still have the bump, or at least you can even tell that it looks like an eye on top of their head. So we're not talking about something mystical here. We're talking about a real gland. The pineal gland is something in science that we know today is 100% a real organ, a real gland. Um, the purpose for that is questionable. Many people really honestly don't know what it regulates and what it works for, but obviously many mystics and saints and cultures and civilizations have talked about the mystical factor of the pineal gland. It sits right in the center of the brain between the two hemispheres. Again, it's a tiny little gland there in comparison to a lot of other things in the brain, just really small, but it's really powerful. Right there in the center of our brain. And you can see here between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, it's dead in the middle. So this is a cool picture because when you have, like a cancer or tumor in the brain, and you go to the doctor, for them to check it, they will actually take a scan like this of your brain, and you see this little white dot. That's the pineal gland, and the reason that it's little white dot like that, Conrad mentioned earlier that it gets calcified. That is why, because the average person's pineal gland is calcified. So this white little dot in the center of your brain is easy to see with an X-ray like this. So if you have a growth, a tumor is a growth in the brain. If you have a growth on the right side or the left side, it will push this gland off center. So if it's off to the left, you have a tumor on the right. If it's off to the right, you have a tumor on the left side. So this is something that they use literally because it's easy to see, and it's supposed to be dead center in the middle. And if it's not, they know why. So when you look at it from the side angle, you can see how if you were to look just straight to the left, it would come out right between the forehead right here. And that's often where you see a bendy or the eye marks, when people draw third eye artwork. That's because your third eye is literally looking straight out in between, just above the two eyes, but dead center. Another fact is that the pineal gland does glow. It does emit light. This is a fact. I believe this is probably more for mystical experiences, out of body experiences, but for sure, this gland does emit its own light that comes from it. It also has the highest blood flow of any gland in the entire body. So even though it is a small organ, there's more blood being pumped to that thing than anything else, and especially in certain points. DMT, the spirit molecule, was a book written by Rick Strassman, and it's based on his research where he had dozens of people who he injected DMT into their bodies. And he, goes through the whole experience of those people and his predictions, everything. The reason I bring him up is because one of the fascinating things from the book, and it's even now a movie that he talks about, is that the pineal gland um, is said 49 days after gestation is when it appears. Okay. And so what he said is, he realized that the Buddhists and other Eastern religions and stuff talked about reincarnation taking 49 days for the soul to reincarnate. And I think that's fascinating that science somehow seems to be confirming that with these Eastern, spiritual practices knew that it took the soul 49 days to reincarnate. So basically, this could be the seed of the soul. So when a person dies, 49 days after that, you could, inhabit another body after that. Now, I know for some people, reincarnation may be a tough thing, but just a real quick thing about it. I mean, if, it's really tough decision to think, or thing to think that the pineal, or your soul would be not continuous, right? That you just a one and done job and it's over. Surely not. I mean, obviously, there's just so much to learn, so much to take in. We take in lifetimes as men, women, different cultures. We speak different languages to gain soul information, to gain experience, and we can continuously do it. I would say every single person in this talk tonight has been on this planet and many other planets millions of times. Our soul is infinite, and we continue just to go do different lifetimes to learn different things.
Jacob,
Yeah.
what was the title of that book again? And what is DMT?
So, spoiler alert, DMT will be the next class next week, because both topics are such big. I couldn't do all of them in one. It would take me forever, because I think they really need their own day. DMT is dimethyltryptamine. It is a psychedelic compound, the most psychedelic compound known to man, and every single person has it in them. It's created in the lungs and in your brain. Straussman said, that's the doctor who wrote the book, he said that the times in your body where your pineal gland created the most DMT was at birth, death, out-of-body experiences, like if you were in a car accident and you died, and someone had an out-of-body experience where they saw their body, they were hovering above it, or if you were in a surgical table and your soul came out of your body and was looking at the avatar, your body itself. Those were the times when DMT was emitted the most in the body. So DMT seems to be the facilitator of the soul in and out of the body.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Once that DMT is secreted, the soul comes in and out, and then you can never go back to where we came from. I think that's the net of being. That's a whole nother talk as well. But that's kind of home base, and then before you're reincarnated into other, sentient beings. So again, it's the facilitator of the soul into the body, in and out of the body. And this is kind of like what our astral body would be, and when the person really opens up their pineal gland, really becomes awake, they're able to do astral traveling. You can go anywhere on the planet, anywhere in the universe, and do remote viewing, see things that are really happening at that time, and bring it back and have that information. So DMT will be the next talk, next week's talk, and will be very interesting as well. So when we look at ancient civilizations, we look at their gods. This is a Sumerian god. He obviously has a pine cone in his hand. This is the belief is to symbolize that his pineal gland is awake, that he's an awakened being. So we see these pine cone images. This guy's got a pine cone in his hands, Sumerian god, bird-looking man. This is the staff of Osiris. He's got a pineal gland, or pine cone rather, on top of his staff. Again, this is that kind of the caduceus, the medical symbol with snakes wrapped around, which is probably DNA, and the pine cone on top. Bacchus from Greek, he's got a pine cone on top of his staff. Another Greek god, he's got a pine cone on top of his staff. And then you look at the modern day. I don't believe these people are gods, nor do I really believe they're super holy. I wouldn't consider these the holy people of our time. But of course, they know the symbology, and they have the Pope himself has a pine cone in his staff, and this really large pine cone with the two birds is actually in the Vatican itself. So, and this statue, I should have got one. I don't think I have one with a person next to it, but a person will barely come up to the birds. This is a massive statue, and why else would the Vatican, this place of spiritual, supposed spiritual place, be a place where they have such a huge statue? And it's because the pineal gland is a spiritual icon all around the world. This is a cross section. The lower left hand part of this is the cross section of the brain. That little tiny dot with the C next to it is the pineal gland. And when you look around the cross section of this, now you can see why the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra both look like the way they do. It's literally a cross section of the brain, and the Egyptians knew this, and that's why symbols are not random. Symbols mean things, they have very in-depth meanings. And so the symbol of Ra, the symbol of Horus, is a cross section of the pineal gland in the brain. So, you guys thought it was all just an eye. It's way more than that. It's it's the seat of our soul. It literally is an incredible gland that allows us to see into things. So our front eyes allow us to see the physical world, to gather up information. An awakened pineal gland is able to see into people, see into events, see into the future, see into things, how they can pan out for you if you were to date this person or take this job. When it's really awake, you can see, oh, how that works out, or how that would happen if I went down this road. Also, just if you were to sit here and close your eyes and think of a red fire truck and really think of it, you can see that in your mind's eye. That's because the pineal gland also has rods and cones in it, and pinealis, they call them pinealocytes. So it literally functions as an eyeball does. And so that's why they call it the mind's eye, because you have that, even not just audio, but you have video, so you can see and hear things in the brain. So the infinite Wi-Fi signal for the ancients was a pineal gland modem hooked to the universe, that when their pineal glands were completely open and awake, and they're able to channel an energy, where to find food, where to find water, where to find a lost loved one, when danger's coming near, to, be awake and be aware of their environment around them all the time, when danger's around. That is what's really important in life. Know when someone's telling you a lie, know when someone's trying to get something out of you, and not, and not in a positive way, trying to take something from you or something. So it was incredibly vital and important to them to be an awake and clear-minded person, so that you could channel in the information that you needed to survive, and to not only that, but be intuitive and be prosperous and those kind of things. So it's imperative to have an awakened pineal gland. Christ said, this is in Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye be single, your whole body shall be full of light. That is an incredible statement. He's talking about the light of the body is the eye. And again, so we know the pineal gland glows. He's talking about a light in the body. If your eye be single, he's not talking about closing one eye. He's talking about the pineal gland eye. Your whole body shall be full of light. It's also interesting about the lampstand parable. Where do you put a lampstand? It's not at the bottom, it's at the very top. Your pineal gland is at the top of your body. It's literally in the center of your head. So when that pineal gland is awake, when it's fully functioning, that's what creates your halo. And in many artworks and things, we normally see a halo in a two-dimensional way. This is a halo around Jesus's head, but so that light that we saw earlier in the brain was 2 or 3 inches inside the brain. But imagine someone who was fully awake, fully aware. That light would then come out of the brain encompassing their whole head like a fishbowl and three-dimensional, that people who were more awake could see and tell. So this is what we call the halo. You see it in every spiritual practice and artwork and books. People, refer to the light around people's heads, this halo around angels' heads and enlightened beings' heads. It's not just conducive to one religion. It's all around the world that we see these halos that come around people's heads. These are from enlightened beings. This halo is directly emitted from the pineal gland. That's the center. And as these people became more awake, their halos became larger. Here's one where it has, you can obviously see two auric fields. The one in the middle is obvious. That's the pineal gland. The bigger one stems from the heart chakra. The heart chakra is 100 times stronger electrical and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically. So it is the more powerful of the two. That is another talk as well. It definitely needs its own day. So just to kind of hopefully incite people to come back for more. But the two fields there from the heart and the pineal gland. So here's one where it's not necessarily, it's still artwork, but I kind of like this one a little bit better because you can just see that light glowing around his head, obviously around his heart as well. And it's just that glowing halo image. It gives you that idea. It's not just this circle around people's head that's weird, that doesn't really make any sense. That's just a two-dimensional image. But certainly this is all around these people's heads, and people saw it. People could see it. Not everybody, I don't think, could see it. When someone was not awake, I don't think that they could even see it or tell at all. See these lights around people's heads. You need to be at least somewhat aware, somewhat awake to be able to even to see these things. So here's Lord Krishna. Obviously, he has a lot of symbology going on here, but he obviously has that glowing halo around his head as well. And this is a close-up picture where he's got you can see the bindi. This is where mostly in India, but other places as well, where you see that red dot, and look at it, it's right there, just above the eyeballs, right dead center. The sideways eye is right above it. This is symbolizing he's awake. His pineal gland is awake, and he's an enlightened being. And here it is again. And here's another talk for another day. You see this bun on top of his head? Literally, it's, you don't really see it in Jesus. There's Buddha with it, obviously. Everybody, oh, it's just his hair. That's honestly not his hair. I do believe Jesus had the same bun. The Bible refers to a crown of life that couldn't be taken away from someone. That's when a king has that. That's a king's crown. The crown of life that can't be taken away. That's this bun on top of the head that I believe in the experience of enlightenment. The gray matter is increased in the brain and pops that circular, that soft part of the baby's head. That's the crown of your head. That's where your crown is. Confucius was said to have a misshapen crown on top of his head. These are real kings. Real kings don't need gold crowns. They don't wear, all this crazy jewelry and, make people, worship them and love them. People just do, they understand, they see their peace, they see their harmony, they see their love. But this crown, I believe Christ had one as well. They wrapped the crown of thorns around the top of it. But this, even in the Bible, Christ is quoted saying, you can add a cubit to your stature just by adding thought. So that means you could literally increase your size by thinking. And where would you think? I mean, obviously in movies and stuff today, we see usually it's kind of now put to the bad guy, right? The bad guys have those big heads, but these are from these enlightened beings whose pineal glands awake, their gray matter's increased, their heads have elongated, and this is the artwork that you see. I mean, just Google Buddhas, Google, enlightened beings and Krishna, Shiva. They all have this. I promise you, they all didn't have long hair with a bun like this on top of it just because they thought it was cool. I believe this is a symbol for the crown of life that can't be taken away. That's what a real king looks like. This is a really good picture. Same thing. You can even see on top of that bun, he has another item on top of it, but he has the bindi. This is an awakened being. Same thing. And here Krishna has, it's the same halo around his head to say that his pineal gland is awake. And again, I think this is the symbolic, the same thing. Although this may be on top of his head, not really around it. People just do artwork in different ways, and the way this artwork is, it just kind of does make sense. It's pretty coherent that just on top of his head, it's a big round halo on top of his head shining over him, just to show that this is an awakened being. So here's a really great picture of it, because this isn't, Jesus or Buddha or Krishna. This is you. This is me. This is everybody. Did we lose Justin? I think we did, and I don't see him coming in. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to make sure that he's trying to get in, that I'm not missing out on him.
I think he was, I think he said when he got home or something, he was going to get back on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is a painting by Alex Gray. And again, you can see the two, magnetic fields around them. And that's what these are. You can call them auras. You can call them halos. You can call them whatever you want. But truly, scientifically, these are electromagnetic fields that stem from the brain and stem from the heart. And these people can see. And when your field is down, when you're depressed, when you're feeling emotions that aren't conducive to this environment, it's not going to be there. Just like the Earth's magnetosphere is coming down right now, 7 to 8 billion people on the planet, really in this kind of altered space is really bringing the magnetosphere down of the Earth as well, too, along with, garbage and everything else that's going on. But, it's imperative for us to open up our pineal glands, to use our hearts and love, not just talk about it, but really emit that love and harmony and peace. When our fields are down, it's easy for someone to say something to you like, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. When our field is down, those thoughts and those ideas, those words get directly into us. But when our fields are big and strong and powerful, you can say anything you want to someone like this. It bounces right off of them. Their fields are strong. These are enlightened beings. You can't get any kind of, hogwash like that into a field like this. It's impossible. These are strong, incredibly powerful fields that are there to protect us. But we've got to do the work to keep those fields up. So another one by Alex Gray, and I love the fact that he's got words and Sanskrit texts, and a lot of information talks about when people saw enlightened beings, that words and all the numbers and everything of the universe was flowing from their bodies and from their fields, that they could see the numbers and colors and letters and words and Sanskrit and everything. That's why I think this one's so cool. Again, this isn't Buddha, this isn't Jesus, this is you and this is me. This is all of us. All of us have this, ability to do this. Christ said, you can do all the things I'm doing and greater things. The only reason I don't think we do those things is because we don't use our heart and brains to the same capacity that they did. But surely we have the same brain as Albert Einstein and the same heart as Jesus or Buddha or anyone. And I love, if you look down in his heart, you can see the sun, looks like a little sun down there. And, I had a download one time that my heart was the sun of my solar system, my body, and the organs and the chakras and the glands and stuff were planets to that sun. So literally, like, the sun was the, center of your universe. So here's a cool picture. Oftentimes in the Bible, it talks about Christ told parables to, people out in the open, but he told the meaning to those parables to his true disciples, not people who said they followed him or, whatever, people who really were engaged in the mystery and wanted to know the truth, And so look what's cool, this Jesus talking to everybody, but here's everybody else that has their own little halos. Some not so much, and I don't know if it's just artwork or whatever, but certainly some of these average people in here, they have halos as well. So here is a master behind closed doors, telling the secrets, telling the parables, explaining quantum physics and, the secrets of the universe to these people, and their pineal glands are glowing as well. Same thing. He's teaching the masses. His is a little bit different. He met, probably just a little bit more enlightened than the rest. They're obviously following him around to learn, to grow, to understand. but he's certainly transmitting that energy to them to help them awake as well. And I think that's what's so important, is for me personally, my spiritual journey was for myself. I remember graduating college and think I didn't have any kind of extra information. I didn't think I was any better than I was the day I walked in, or any smarter, more intelligent, or more, able to get a job. But so it's kind of made it my goal in life to learn things and figure out what God was and spirituality, and I was open to anything. So it was for me at first, but I feel like eventually, as you do wake up, as you do open up your pineal gland, there's a responsibility that you feel to help the others, to tell other people, to transmit what you know and understand to those who are willing to sit down and listen and learn. And I certainly feel that. And not to say anybody's above anybody else. I certainly don't think that. I think we're all one. But I definitely want to share, secret information and esoteric information with anybody and everybody who's willing to listen. And so I think that's what you see with disciples. Buddha had them, Christ had them. You look back at all the enlightened beings, they all had followers and people who are, desperate to learn what these people had achieved. And, one of the things people asked Buddha, like, hey, what are you? And he replied, I am awake. And so I think that's what we're going to. I'm definitely not claiming to be awake, but I am definitely awakening. And I don't even know how long that process takes or what it all entail look like, but I know it's captivated me for a long time now. And, I'm certainly just open to growing more and learning as much as I possibly can. And, I think that's probably why you guys are all here as well. But certainly there are some people out there who think that singular I is something that they can manipulate, something they can control, an order they can control. And so I think that's imperative to know as well, to not get caught up in the flashiness of things that are going on, what's happening out in the world sometimes, because certainly some people, have ideas that sound similar to the things that these enlightened beings are talking about. We'll have a world that's peaceful again, and there won't be any countries and governments that control everyone or whatever. And a lot of the things that some of these people preach are similar, but they're doing it in a ways that they control it instead of it being for the good of all people. So I think one of the ways that's clear, that it's and obvious that certain people are trying to calcify the pineal gland, as Conrad said earlier, is fluoride. In case you guys didn't know, when we went to war with the Nazis in World War II and we captured their scientists and everything like that, we brought them back here to work for us. They didn't get tried or anything happened to them. That's called Project Paperclip. You can look that up. They brought them back here to work for the United States, and I believe many of the things that they were doing over there in Germany, they were brought over here to do the same things. So the Nazis literally put fluoride in the water of the Jews to make them more docile and not fight back, just to be, zombified. And, I don't know about you guys, but I don't see how the government could pay a lot of money to put fluoride in our water just for our teeth. And now I have had many conversations with people who said, I used to work at a dentist office or whatever. I know fluoride is good for your teeth. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly what fluoride is. Fluoride, the ingestion of fluoride. Fluoride is a toxic chemical waste. Ingesting fluoride is poison. What fluoride does that's good for the teeth is it's a coating. When they put fluoride on your teeth, it coats the teeth so that things can't get into it and destroy it. If you could put super glue on your teeth and probably stop the same thing, but nobody's going to put super glue on your teeth, obviously. I would say I wouldn't put fluoride on my teeth either, nor would I use it for any cleaning or toothpaste product, because you're obviously going to get a small portion of that fluoride that's going to be soaked in through the gums. That fluoride leads to the calcification that we were talking about earlier. So that we definitely don't want our pineal glands to be calcified from that. I think, poor diets and things definitely lead to that as well. But certainly fluoride in our water, I don't think in any way, shape, or form is good for us. There's no evidence whatsoever that I've ever seen that suggests that fluoride does anything good It's the same ingredients in that's in rat poison and Prozac, and it has many, many negative side effects: memory loss, joint problems, lower sex drive, infertility. So, I mean, the list is very long, obviously, and you guys can read it. So, why you can't really convince me that this is going to be something good for us to just for our teeth, and there's so many other side effects. This is a toxic chemical waste, and to put this in our water is absolutely absurd. That anybody's putting anything like this in your water. There's so many negative side effects to fluoride. Um, there's just no way that I don't think at this point anybody could really make an honest argument to convince people that fluoride is actually good for your teeth, other than what I told you before. It just coats the teeth for a small amount of time, but that fluoride that you coat your teeth with is obviously going to get into the bloodstream as well. So here's an actual picture of a pineal gland blown up a little bit, and this white part on top is the calcification that you would see in it. So the fluoride and things like that, poor diets and stuff that is attacking that pineal gland is really limiting the access that you have to it. So what seems that the pineal gland is able to do, it has water around it and is able to kind of suck in water and reverse it in a way that like it's coming out of itself. It's hard to describe, but so when the fluoride hits your pineal gland and calcifies it, it's just not able to get that blood flow that it needs. It's not able to reverse the water that it needs to be able to. You've heard the expression, you need to go squeegee out your pineal gland. It needs to be like this very, fluid type organ that's to be able to suck in things and then suck that and then basically kind of spit it back out. But that's what it's doing here. That fluoride is literally just completely calcifying, so that these things are not working at all. And there are a lot of other things that affect it too. So one of the things just in general that you may not even think of, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but wearing even sunglasses. The pineal gland is activated by light and dark. So, a lot of times eyeglasses and contact lenses can rob you from blocking your eye from receiving some of the ultraviolet light that's coming through into the pineal gland. And so, I'm not saying you shouldn't wear them any time, but certainly I would restrict my use of wearing sunglasses all the time. You know what I mean? Sunlight is imperative to a healthy body, vitamin D, and we need an adequate amount of that during the day, so that when you get to the nighttime and your pineal gland turns on, it's had enough light that's absorbed into it that it can use to probably then allow it to glow, like we saw in those pictures earlier. And so, this is kind of the same thing. If pharmacies and things like that should be health food stores and not just pharmaceutical drugs, these things obviously affect the pineal gland as well. And to create these just really, like I was talking about the Jews, a really docile, not fight back, not, question information that we've been given, question history, education, a few people benefit greatly from a civilization that doesn't, fight back, that doesn't say anything, that doesn't question anything. Certainly, and a few people profit off that instead of healthy people who have, minds that work really well and they're really sharp and they're really quick and they eat, healthy foods and living foods, and they're able to make good decisions for themselves. So when we, are in that state, when our pineal gland is very calcified, when we're not accessing a lot of it, we tend to see this three-dimensional world when we know there's a lot more to reality than that. Just in general, we know that there's light, infrared light bouncing around that we can't see. There's sounds that are bouncing around that we can't necessarily hear. A dog can hear a dog whistle and you can't. There's a whole world of things available out there to see that it's just unavailable to us. So we think everything's 3D, and I got to have the nice car and the nice clothes and go to the game and go to this, and I work for money no matter what it costs me, my time and my soul. But certainly there's much more to who we are, to what we're capable of, our intuition, our psychic abilities. But we are so limited, we don't even think that stuff is possible. except for most people will chalk it up to, oh, one person could do that. Sure, Jesus could do that, or Buddha could do that, but certainly not me. That's because our access to pineal gland is literally so restricted. Our imagination, I, magi nation, the place inside of us where we're magicians and we can, conjure up anything, is literally limited. So, again, if you guys want to jump in here at any point, feel free to, say anything or whatever. I'm totally open to that. So, of course, the purpose of our topic today is we want to be able to awaken our third eye. How do we open that closed eye and be able to use it so we can use those things? So, of course, obviously, number one, kick the fluoride. Even the water that I'm drinking right now out of my Berkey filter, I would stay away from any of the Nestle products with water. I think of pretty much all water, especially in the United States, has got some fluoride in it nowadays. But just be very careful. Number one thing I would drink would be living spring water, first and foremost. Number two on this list, at least, is the raw cacao. Cacao ceremonies are great because they do, get cacao really centers to the heart, but the heart is definitely the organ that pumps the blood. So getting that blood going, getting that blood to that pineal gland helps detoxify the blood and everything. Meditation, and I just want to put it out there that meditation is not sitting in your room and just trying to forget everything, or trying to become something. To me, the most profound times in meditation that I ever had was just sitting there, letting go of being Jacob, being a boy, being a guy from a small town, whatever it was, and just pretending, if you will, that I was the universe in ecstatic motion. And when I could do that, I became the universe in ecstatic motion. And then sun gazing itself, again, talking about the sun coming into your eye. It's very important. Most people say the beginning parts of sunrise and the end of sunset are some of the best times to sun gaze. You guys can look it up, but there are lots of documentaries and people who literally claim to have not eaten for years because they sun gaze hours a day. So they don't even have to eat anything anymore. I think it's possible. I'm definitely not there. I love to eat food still, but enlightened beings, I think, could go vast amounts of times without eating anything or consuming anything. Your body is literally its own energy factory, creating its own energy. I would say a small portion is really coming from the food that you eat. A lot of energy actually goes into digesting food.
So Jacob,
yep.
The cacao, that's not the coffee bean or what's the other thing I wanted to try to think of? I mean, is cacao its own plant?
Yeah, so it's like a little bean. It's when people say chocolate, it's what chocolate is derived from today. But today, chocolate is just sugar flavored chocolate cacao, right? And nowadays, actually, you can go into most natural health food stores and look at a chocolate bar, and they'll say 50% cacao or 70% cacao or 80% cacao. The more cacao you can get, especially the dark chocolate, the better. So that is, like I said, a little bean. It's very bitter if you don't mix it with anything. And the natives in Central America and even parts of South America would sit in ceremony and drink this together. My partner and I lead ceremonies of this a couple times a month in Colorado Springs. If you're interested, just let me know. We can get you in there. But when you drink it and then, have an intention, what they would say was it would open your heart and be able to, love and feel love and compassion. And so we'll do this with intention and usually have a subject matter to talk about. And, I've done this with shamans and people like that. And I can't tell you how many times I've cried. It just opens up the heart chakra, opens up your heart to be able to feel love for yourself, to feel love for others, to feel a lot of gratitude. You know what I mean? I think obviously the heart is something that does much more than pumps blood to our body. This is an intuitive organ that has neurons in it that now we know the heart math science, can literally scientifically prove that the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart is really the more incredible almost of the two organs, if you will, if it was a competition. Not that it is, but, and again, that's a whole nother topic, but cacao is a bean from Central America that the Mayans and other natives used to use in ceremony to connect with themselves and to others in a very deep and profound way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So raw chocolate. I would go raw cacao, dark chocolate, apple cider vinegar. There are a lot of things out there. I've heard skate liver oil and all kinds of different things to help with the pineal gland. Obviously, staying away from the processed foods, sugar, those kind of things. Fasting a couple times a month or a year is good. I would especially say for 3 days, if you can do it. If you could just do water for 3 days, that's a whole body reset, a whole immune system reset to fast for 3 days. But certainly, like I said, just go online. There are lots of people who say there are different things to help do this. Skate liver oil, I definitely heard is one. Apple cider vinegar is good for a lot of things. Even a shot or two of that a day is life changing.
Jacob, what is the nascent iodine? Is that something that's found in sea kelp, or what exactly is that?
That's a good question, and that's one I don't know about myself, to be
Okay.
honest. It's on there.
I'll look it up.
I haven't researched it myself. I obviously know carrot juice and chocolate mushroom tea and alkaline diet, but that's not one I know in particular for myself. But I know just alkaline diet in general. So every person who has the disease, every person who's sick or has a cold or the flu has an acidic pH. And again, that's because we're eating lots of sugars and processed food. But even every person who has cancer has an acidic pH. If you were to raise the body to an alkaline level, you would never be sick. So, sickness is not necessarily a bad thing. It's our indicator that we haven't been eating raw, organic foods, too many processed foods. It's just kind of like, hey, you need to stop doing this. You're going to feel bad if you don't. It's that first step, sicknesses, I think, before you get disease. Your body's no longer at ease. Now you're at disease because you chose to continuously do those things over and over again. We gave you the subtle hints that you were sick all the time. Now here's the disease because you didn't listen to the subtle hints. Here's the big whack from the universe. Hopefully that big whack will help you get, realize what you're doing. I know certainly for me, I got an autoimmune disease 20 years ago and spent a vast amount of time researching and going to Reiki healings and eating right and meditation to cure myself. And I can tell you today that I have cured myself of my own autoimmune disease. And but I do believe if I was to go back to my old ways, I would get it again. So, but I think that's important to share with people that I don't know everything. I don't claim to. But if you see something that you're interested, definitely look it up. Maybe bring it back next time and let us know. So this is a really important way to realize that the apocalypse means, really is a word that, we have changed up so much now. But in the Greek terms, it meant a lifting of the veil, something that was hidden to be revealed. Oh, no, don't tell me that. Hold on one second. Sometimes it gets stuck. So lifting of the veil or disclosure of knowledge. That's what the word apocalypse means in Greek, where it originally came from. We tend to think of the gloom and doom today. What's that? But that's certainly not what it originally meant. Along with a lot of our other definitions and things have changed over time to kind of hide words and meanings and stuff. But obviously the corruption, the political system, financial system. We're all waking up, limitless humans, potential in the minds of people coming together to affect real positive change. The apocalypse has definitely happened. We are there. There's no doubt about that. A lifting of the veil is happening, and not, in different places and different ways. It's happening, for people differently. Some people may wake up to politics being corrupt first, or the education system, or there are all kinds of ways that we start to see through the veil and it starts getting disclosed to us first. Whatever people are into, mostly we'll see that.
Aliens.
Aliens. Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, if you're someone who sits in a school system all day long, you would think, well, that person's not going to wake up. But I mean, even that, they're seeing now that with education systems, just not for everyone. If you want to take it that way, that person starts to wake up. Hey, how can we do this differently so that everybody thrives and everybody does better? So I don't think there's a facet of living, that you couldn't wake up. Everything is pretty much the same thing. So every way is valid, and every life is an opportunity for everyone to wake up. So don't ever count anybody out. I was a bartender in Atlanta for a long time, so I was able to see the darkness really well that way. And then when some light came in, I was able to be like, oh wow, that's real light. That's real. Something that I'm really into. So got somebody else coming in right now. So that's something that I realize, hey, that's more than just somebody telling me something that doesn't have facts. So every life is valid, every avenue, every way is. Oh, let me stop. I think sometimes when I let people in, it does it too. Okay, so here's a great picture. No matter what life you're living, no matter what job you have, the lifting of the veil is for everyone, right? Everybody can do it. It can happen overnight. It could be one spiritual experience, one cacao ceremony, one yoga retreat, one yoga class, one alien encounter, one UFO encounter. It could be anything for anybody. So never count anybody out. But this is a great picture of what's out from everything I've been told. There's more to life than everything that I've read in books or that my mom and dad told me, or more to spirituality than what the preacher preaches about in church. And the way that we do that is we have to open that eye. We have to awaken that eye. So again, good health, the light, staying away from poor diets. But literally an eyeball, that pineal gland, the third eye, mind's eye, it's in every single person. All of us have it. So we can awaken it. So again, here's a pine cone, a sleeping human. This is the green, immature pine cone. We want to be this awakened avatar. We want to be a mature pine cone. We want to be able to wake that thing up and allow for, full activation. So, what perfect way to really get people to wake up in a mass way. There's been great awakenings, in our country before and other countries and all around the world. But oftentimes it is the darkness that brings out the light in people. If it didn't get really bad, sometimes some people would never wake up. So I don't think it's anything to run around and complain about and be sad about and be mad about. But, it's an opportunity now for many people to realize, like, hey, things aren't going the way I necessarily want them to. How can I make a difference? How can we change things? That's what's super important. And I think the answer to that literally is what is behind your eyes holds more power than what's in front of them. So you can point the fingers all you want to, but each and every single one of us has an incredible amount of power inside of us to change the world. Jesus was just a barefooted man who walked around on the earth. So is Buddha, Mother Teresa, Jane Goodall. I mean, these are just a person from a small town, all of them, you know what I mean? Each one of us has the same heart and the same brain as Jesus or Buddha or Albert Einstein or, anybody. We just have to learn how to use these incredible gifts that we've been given. Because at the end of the day, it is our journey and our responsibility. And when you're ready, no one can wake you up. You have to be ready for it. And so, it's up to you. But just right here, this says the pineal gland or third eye is the most heavily targeted and poisoned gland in the human body, mainly due to its spiritual influence it has on human awareness. A closed pineal gland means the mind can easily be deceived as it struggles to look beyond what is presented in front of it. An open pineal gland acts like a truth detector by being able to pick up on the subtle inconsistencies of lies or subliminal messages that may be used as a veil to conceal true intentions. And I can attest to this 100%. I, before I really felt like I was waking up, I would, date the same person over again. I would go to the same job or the same events and be miserable all the time. When I started to really wake up and realize, like, hey, that girl's really pretty, but if I date her and do this, I know I'm going to be miserable at the end. She's going to, take advantage of me. I'm going to be really upset, sad. If I take this job, I'm going to do that. I was just able to really allow my intuition to come on and see it and be able to, like, oh, you know what I mean? I don't have to go down the road again. The universe is giving me the opportunity to see if I've learned something, and I can go down it and continue the same patterns over again, or I can see through it and move up to the next step of my evolution, because there's a lot more to get to. So, but we can't go to something new until we learn sometimes the old thing. So it's imperative for us to have that pineal gland awakening, for our souls to evolve through these experiences. I don't feel that there's any reason, honestly, to look down on anyone or be upset by someone else's journey. At the end of the day, it's their journey. There are things that people know that I don't know, and there are things that they get that I don't get. So just because there's one thing that they seems really obvious to me that they're not getting, it's not for me to judge them and be like, oh, they're not getting that. How dumb are they? Like, they're gonna keep doing the same experience. No, it's imperative for all of us to have our own evolution of our soul, to have our own lives, our own journeys, and let everybody have those. If people want help, help them out. But I've learned, for me, there's really usually only two ways to learn things. That's to learn from others, where someone tells you something, and offers you gifts, offers you knowledge and wisdom. Or two, you can learn it for yourself. And oftentimes, number two is a little bit harder, but there usually is more experience gained by the heartbreak, or you learn by yourself. But I try to learn things from what others tell me these days, if I can. So that's it, man. We are in the midst of probably one of the greatest mass awakenings of our planet in history. I find this an incredible time. 10 years ago, the conversation that you could have with people about even politics or religion or education, or fluoride or anything, you couldn't even have a conversation about most of those things. Now most people are aware of the deception in a lot of things, and maybe not to great depths, but at least a little bit. I find that fascinating and obviously awesome at the same time. We may not be able to have a conversation about everything, but if I can have a conversation about one thing with someone, just even for a little bit, that's amazing. So we are really honestly having the greatest probably awakening on this earth has ever seen, collectively. So when we open up our pineal glands, we enhance our psychic abilities, our intuition, remote viewing, astral projection. The list goes on and on of the abilities that stem from an awakened pineal gland. And I'll be honest, I think there are things that I don't even think that we're even remotely aware of what we can do. So it's time. It's now time more than ever to awaken ourselves, to awaken that eye within, to dare to become the avatars that we know that deep down we are, and that most of us have been hiding from, are too scared to be that person inside of us, that's just calling to us, so much that, hey, I'm in here. I'm ready. We're all the gods and goddesses that we look up to and we love. That's us. You know what I mean? The superheroes that we see on TV and movies that we love, that's whispering inside each and every single one of us, hey, it's time for you to do that. It's time for you to wake up. It's time for you to, be a superhero. And it doesn't have to be, flying around and beating people up. I don't think that's what it is at all. You can help your neighbor you can get a job that you feel good about. You know, you can listen to people with open ears instead of just offering advice immediately. Listen to what they have to say and why they're saying it. There's so many things that each of us can do, you know, but ultimately I think love is our greatest superpower. You know, kindness, compassion, empathy, and certainly our psychic powers. You know, the things that we're talking about here are just elementary to what we could do. I mean, obviously there's been people who could fly around, who had lightning bolts come from their, you know, bodies, and, you know, humans that could walk on water and, you know what I mean, heal people without scalpels and needles or, you know, drugs or anything, just in the, you know, in the blink of an eye, you know, someone who couldn't see, or someone who couldn't walk. That's real psychic abilities that I don't even think it's mystic or anything. I think it's just a technology that once we learn it and practice it, you know, each one of us can use. And that to me is one of the most incredible gifts in general, is healing ourselves and others. Every other Tuesday, I do a hands-on healing energy, a group energy healing class, because I honestly believe with enough practice, we can do that. We can move mountains. I do believe that we could put a person on a massage table and a few people stand around and believe that we're going to move cancer, and we can move cancer out of someone's body. Then that person doesn't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars and, you know, countless hours of doctor's visits and drugs and radiation therapy. Imagine if we can move those cancers and those diseases out of people without having to pay, you know, someone an awful lot of time and money. That's something I believe every culture talks about, that we have the ability to do. And, you know, Christ said, you can do all things I'm doing and greater things. If we only believed it, we could achieve it. And I think that first part is just knowing that it is possible. And then from there, you know, never doubting it ever. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we're all Buddhas. Every single one of us. You are all gods. When Christ was, you know, doing miracles, and, you know, the Pharisees and Sadducees came up to him and they thought they were going to catch him, and they said, "Hey, man, you're doing the Lord's work on the Sabbath day. That's a sin." They wanted to stone him for that. He says, you know, and this is literally in the Bible. It says, "Ye are all gods." All of us, not some of us, not, you know, a couple people over here or these people. Everybody is. You know, the difference between him and us only is that he believed it, and he not just believed it, he knew it. He knew deep down in his soul. And so I honestly think at the end of the day, sometimes the difference between knowing and believing is probably just doing it. Because oftentimes we can say we know this or we say we know that, but if you're not doing it, if you're not truly being it, how can you say you really even believe in it? Right? How could you say that, you know, oh, I believe we could heal people? You do? Do you practice it? Because if you don't, do you really believe it? And this is me daring people, because I am here to dare some people out. I'm here to say, follow me, come with me, you know, let's do these things that we're entitled to do, because who are we to just work these mundane freaking lives and go to work every day when we literally have been told by Jesus and Krishna and Allah and all of them that we could do all things they're doing, better things than they ever did. So we're all Buddhas, we're all Christ, we're all gods. This right here is an incredible artwork. You know, I'll just quickly explain it according to the artist, explaining of their own artwork. But basically, it's oneness down at the bottom. It's the circle. You can't really see it super well, but that's the caduceus, you know, the DNA snake with the wings and the little pine cone on top. That's dualities, the two. Then it has the Trinity and the four elements, and, you know, obviously fish and the dinosaurs and mammals, and then you see Adam and Eve in there, and the Buddha's under his tree, and then you see Jesus, and Jesus is on the cross. And so we go from that, this colorful, beautiful, naturistic scene, to after Christ is crucified, to this really kind of dark, you know, capitalism, industrial age. Yeah, it looks like there's a nuclear bomb going off, which, you know, obviously happened not too long ago, into what you could obviously argue is what could be like a fifth dimension or higher dimensional frequencies before it goes back to oneness again. I do believe that this is pretty accurate, that life seems to be not like a circle of life that goes around, but a spiral of life, of things coming back around over and over and over again, experiences, situations, events. Um, and it seems like this is just something that happens. And we're in this spot. This is kind of a, I don't know, maybe natural progression, but it probably happens similar to this on many other planets as well. But I do think we're at this incredible, crucial time now where, you know, people on the planet have the technology and ability to destroy the whole thing. And in my honest, humble opinion, I believe the reason Mars has no atmosphere now is probably because it had a nuclear war on it in the past, and some survivors did make it out and came to Earth. But I am hoping that we can learn from them and other civilizations and realize that we can survive, we can awaken the world. It's not going to take you or I becoming CEOs of a company and funneling millions of dollars into it to, convince people of anything. That literally science has shown us that meditation and focusing on the things that we want. Socrates says if we want change, we shouldn't focus on what we don't want, rather focusing on what we do want and putting our time and energy into that. So in the same token, I think that's called where our attention goes, energy flows. And I think that's important. We can't continue to bash the things that we hate, talk about things like find new ways to do things. Focus on what we do love about the world, how much gratitude we have for our families, for our life, for our friends. Those things really do matter and they ripple out. And when enough people constantly focus on those things, the world will literally change into what would be a higher dimensional frequency where more reality is just known. It's not a question anymore of like a couple people throughout history knowing it. Everyone knows it. We live in this world where everyone's, intuition. Oh, yeah, I know how to use my intuition. Or remote viewing. Yeah, I remote viewed Mars the other day. It's just like normal conversation. We look back. Do you remember when we didn't know those things and we were kind of oblivious? But certainly, I think that we're going to be able to do those things. I know certainly I'm already experienced. I know other people are already experiencing those kind of things, and certainly we'll be able to expand on those teachings and understandings even in more depth in the future, I believe. And with that knowledge, with those psychic abilities, we'll be able to paint a new world. We'll be able to create a new world again that works for everybody. One where there's sustainable energies and free energies. And, you got to think so much of the violence and everything that happens on this planet is because there's so much lack, or at least people perceive it that way, that there's not enough for everyone to go around. And, so a lot of people have to take something from someone else. Certainly we can paint a new world, a new way of being, and create a new life that works for all of us. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen in the age of Aquarius. We are going to experience a wonderful new way of being on this planet, a way of living, a way of thinking, a way of doing politics. It'll be completely destroyed, but then completely renewed to a new way that works for us. And the Bible and other books talk about, 1,000 years of peace, a golden age, the golden Kali Yuga, whatever you want to call it. But I do believe that we will experience a lifetime or a world, a reality that's 10 times, 100 times more harmonious now than we live right now. I don't know how much, but I do believe that it will be much more drastically increased than what it is now. And the problems that we're having today and the things that are going on, it's just we're just figuring out. We're going to work it out, and maybe not everybody gets in there, but they'll get the chance to live those lives and reincarnate into bodies and figure it out for themselves eventually one day. But certainly, I do feel like where this Earth is going. I'll do a whole talk on the golden age and the age of Aquarius within a couple episodes of today. But that's where we want to go. We want to go from this world on the right, the industrial world's on fire, the smoke, to beautiful, luscious animals and water and people living in the trees and living with the earth and harmonious world. I know that we can do it instead of just one that's just taking from nature and raping the earth. Um, you know, and it's just contrast. I think at the end of the day, it's an experience that, hey, this is what's going on, is what has happened, but we can take that knowledge now and be better humans than we were before because we experienced that suffering and we don't want the earth to experience that anymore. Although I do think ages and cycles come back around, hopefully there won't be one that goes back down as far as we have been, at least in a long time to come. So that's my talk for today. And that's the last slide I had for today. But that's another one of Alex Gray's paintings. I just love it. I think it's great. And I think his work is just amazing. Yeah, check him out.